Very good evening. Welcome back to my channel. This is Royal Bangalore Food, and you're watching host. My name is Paul. Very good evening, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are in part of the world. Thanks for staying to my channel and watching my videos. Whomsoever you are, if you're watching, please leave your name and comments. I'll have it to have a look at it and give it a shout out. All right, today quickly we're going to look at it in terms of frozen and fresh. Me and my mom always get into quarrel. So let's say yesterday, mom had made a fantastic chicken biryani for lunch, and I had happened to buy a frozen chicken from Real Good, right? So the Godrej Tyson chicken, you get it in more store, and then mom wouldn't like it. I mean, for a strange reason, all her life, even now, even for the matter of fact, I've explained the technology, what I do, how food works, how most of the online player works in terms of the fresh and the frozen stuff, but still she wouldn't like it. That's one. Second thing is about the vegetables. So today you get pre-cut vegetables on the online, but we also buy fresh. It's always better if you're making a biryani fresh. First of all, there is nothing called fresh. Most of the vegetables gets planted someday, some other time. The meat has been grazed for a year or 6 months or so. If you're talking about biryani, okay, A- and for the matter of fact, your spices are grown somewhere and it's come and it's packed and kept. So, first of all, many Indians have this aspiration saying, "I'm getting fresh food." Yes, you cook the food fresh, right? So you cook it, I mean, on the certain temperature, certain scientific way, and then you would go ahead and do it and cook it and boil it and then you eat it. Many people get carried away in terms of what is frozen food. So today we're going to debar and demask or understand whether the frozen food is better for your health or not for your health. Which tastes better? Is it taste factor? Is it going to be delicious? It's going to be look. It's going to be the pricing in the current competitive market, or it's going to be the way it is, or we're going to break a myth. First of all, let's take a look at it because if I need to tell my mom that frozen is always healthy, she would just give you a tight slap. Yeah, I always got slaps. Even now, I'm 41, and then now that I have a kid. But yes, I would still get that banter going, saying that hey, you don't do this, otherwise I'm going to kick you. I'm going to give you a slap. All right, so the topic is going to be all about fresh and frozen. Let's look at meat and vegetables because this is what predominantly makes your biryani. The rice, anyways, has been kept in a normal dry temperature or dry pantry, so it's always available, right? So we're going to help you make those healthy and wellness choices. I would not say that. I'm not a nutrition. I'm not a dietitian. I'm not a scientist. I'm just a sheer lover of food who explains, I mean, rather, who understands what is frozen, what is, and what is fresh. I mean, even for the matter of fact, my wife would say she would go to one particular fish seller, and we're a Keralite. We like all our sea-based food, right? Sea-based fishes. So it could be your crabs, your prawns, your mackerels, your sardines, your kingfish, your ladyfish, your butterfish, your swordfish. These are the fishes that we eat, and if possible, only on a given time. Sometimes here in Bangalore, not in Kerala. If you're in Bangalore, so we would end up buying the river fish or the pond fish or the lake fish called karimeen, also called the pearl spot. Otherwise, it's going to be predominantly a seafood, sea-based fishes or prawns or crabs or measles, or it's going to be clams, or sometimes it's going to be big blue crabs or the orange crabs. But what happens with my wife? She says that this particular seller gives you the fresh fish. Now, understand sourcing the fish. If people know about it, you can just keep your mouth shut. People don't know, a majority of the people don't know that it takes minimum 2 or 3 days for a fisherman to go in the deep sea. He knows because he's been traveling on that particular route. He knows where does his sardine comes in, which point, probably the early morning where you get the sheep, the prawns, the tiger prawns, because that's when the graze, the hungry, they all pop up from that, the hidden place, and they come up and they get, fished. Similarly, your crabs also, right? So crabs only in the night times, right? So they hunt for food in the night. So fisherman goes middle of the sea, picks up this food or this fish is all about, the seafood, and stocks it in his fish, and it would take them 1 to maximum 3 days. Where does it store? Basically, the same seawater is being stored sometimes, or they carry boxes, what do you call, the thermal boxes, or the thermocol boxes, which keeps them warm. I mean, it's almost a dead fish, right? So they use some kind of chemicals to make sure that it stays alive. The freshness, the skin doesn't tamper or doesn't deteriorate sometimes. So because of that, they use a lot of ice, dry ice and wet ice, and also water in mix of that. And they would know what fish they have done, what fishes they have caught, and they would just head back to the shore. Now, from the show, what happens is that it directly gets auctioned, and it would take a day. Let's say if they've reached early in the morning show, they would just bifurcate it. They would do a quality grade. They would check. There would be some middleman to go ahead and check that up, and he would be the person to go ahead and buy, and then he would auction it to the people who buys. For example, there'll be restaurants, chefs. There'll be a lot of catering companies. A lot of people who are buying, like a middleman from this part of the world, from Bangalore, from metros where you're not accessible to the sea. He or she will go ahead and buy and source action, and then they would also do another repack. Probably, well was it could be a journey of close to another day. So probably after fifth day is where you receive it in Bangalore, and immediately it goes in your shelves. These is the process. Now tell me in this that freshness to frozen to fresh, and then you get a dead fish. This is just a matter of fish. Now let's talk about the meat aspect. Now, for meat, if you're a very good lover of meat, you know that you should be knowing that the animal, the cattle, in this case, let's talk only about sheep, right, or a lamb. Now, if it is a sheep or a goat, you would know that for a making of biryani, you need a very succulent meat, or means a tender meat, a very juicy meat. Now, juicy meat only comes from the a female cattle or a female goat or a female sheep, and that particular sheep would actually will be tenderized, but making sure that they don't litter. They shouldn't have littered many goats or many lambs, for the matter of fact, right? So this similarly for the lamb should be in certain height and certain weight. Only then the meat, once you go ahead and slaughter, you will get the succulent meat. Now what happens now? Again, when you go ahead and slaughter, it would take minimum 5 to 4 hours, depending on the carcass of the meat, to entire. You always see the carcass being hung upside down. So it would take minimum 4 5 hours the blood to drain out, and then the butcher would go ahead and chop and give it to you. But still, from the time the lamb has been grazed, fed properly, it would take probably 3 to 4 months or 5 months, good 6 months of time. That depends on the feed they've taken. So that's the amount of level of love they show, the farmer or the shepherd shows, to go ahead and graze that particular cattle. And then it comes to your shops or your online stores and so on and so forth. But then again, from the slaughterhouse, and specifically in Bangalore, you have only one slaughterhouse. So one from the slaughterhouse, the amount of meat which gets carried to the particular places. I mean, unlike in Bangalore, many other villages in the entire India, they would go ahead and chop, the fresh lamb, and with the blood oozing out. Believe me, the moment you touch or you consume the blood along with the meat is absolutely going to go haywire. Unfortunately, many people foresee this. I mean, actually, they neglect this point of time, and they say, hey, that's also another meat, because they use blood to make a very good cuisine. So it's called burji, the blood burji, what we call it as. I mean, I don't know what to say, but if you want a clean, gutted, good medicure and pedicure meat which comes to your plate, which cooked biryani, it's always make sure that it follow the process of scientific method. Once the blades get drained out, it's always better to go ahead and freeze it, pack it very well, in your polythene, store it, and then transport it is always better. And I would suggest you, because it doesn't get contaminated with salmonella. Salmonella is one of the greatest, so-called the E. coli, one of the most treacherous, or so-called the most disaster virus or bacteria which get consumed, which gets attracted to the meat, and then it probably you consume it. So there are a lot of pros of and a lot of the bad side of it, which you go eat at your fresh meat. Similarly, when it comes to vegetables, when I had this industrial kitchen, we always had a side by side. We were in the middle of a farm area, and that farm area was always about tomatoes. Believe me, that those tomatoes, I would see them, I would literally go ahead and plant. But then the amount of fertilizer which gets sprayed across that the plants, My goodness gracious, I wouldn't even want to touch that tomatoes. Strikingly, the moment after pesticide, your hand, the entire farmer's hand gets itching. He gets a lot of problem. He gets into fever. That's the amount of chemical that the plant takes in, because unfortunately the insects comes and spoils few crops, and the moment few crops, the whole area, the whole acre would actually end up getting spoilage. So similarly, when the tomato gets yield and it's time to ripe and to go pluck it up, and you see the different size of tomatoes. So it would take minimum 2 to 3 months in a very good peak tropical climate of moderate temperature to create tomatoes in Bangalore, and then it comes to your market, and then it comes to your shop. So understand nothing is fresh as long as you grow it at your home. So with this in mind, before we jump in, just understand, to go ahead and subscribe, to hit that bell notification. And if you made it to this deep end, I would appreciate to give you leave your comments. I would always have a look at it and then get back to you and revert your answer. Even in the future, probably looking at it, I'll be happy to have your comment section. In case if your questions are not answered, you can always come back to me and I'll look at it. The first point is that about your nutritional value, right? So let's talk about nutritional value. The fresh produce is often praised as nutritional content, right? What I mentioned. So if we say all fresh, 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 when it comes to the particular store until it reaches your home, the nutritional value is absolutely zero. Yes, but in the fruit and in the meat, when you cut it, it has its own nutritional value. But tell me one thing: how many people, at least even one, goes ahead and do a lab test? Have you done that? It just takes 500 rupees. Okay, I mean, you might tell me I just buy 100 grams and 200 grams, but have you done that lab test? If you do that lab test, you will have doodh ka doodh pani ka mani. Just like the clear water surface, you get to know how nutritious is all your food is all about. That kills you. Just 500 rupees. Go walk into any food lab. They will do this analysis and give it to you. You don't even tell them what you have to do. For that 500 rupees, whatever test they conduct and give it to you, I mean, you will be bonkersly looking at this report and say, hey, where's my nutritional value? A lot of dietitian, I mean, they don't promote this, but then please go ahead. I request you, even the water that you consume, go ahead and do it. Just take 500 rupees. It's matter of every 15 days. I mean, not in the household. I'm sure everybody has their own, the RO water and so on and so forth. But when it comes to the outside food, nutritional food, whatever you do, take some time out, spend some money, because it's end of the day, you don't spend a lot of hospital bills, especially when you have diarrhea, when you have jaundice, when you have a foodborne illness, when your gut is absolutely pathetic in stage. Please go ahead, call. They always come to your house, pick up your foods. Because just let's say that, if you're not eating anywhere else, you've been consistently buying from that kirana store, from that vegetable store, from that meat guy. Please take even smallest of small portion, just one. If it is biryani, just take one meat, just probably 10 grams of fresh meat or the cooked meat versus the fresh vegetable, the cooked vegetables. Go ahead and do it. It's all about your thing. You have to know this. Okay, so you didn't know that fresh fruits, or so-called the frozen vegetables, is even more nutrient rich, because they use specifically, it's very clear that you have to understand when how do you froze. There are many technologies out here. You have IQF, you have blast freeze, normal freeze at a certain temperature. You use ice. See, the idea is that when you know a farmer knows it's going to get ripened, it's at the peak of the ripeness, preserving the vitamin and minerals. Is that's when you go ahead and do a frozen method. You would do this because it's always been, like what happened with the ice age. Yeah, simple as that. Even today, like, you see a lot of fossils coming out. They've always been intact with the bone, including the fish, including a lot of dinosaurs, everything 65 million years ago. Even the ice age, whatever ice age that we found the mammoth, the elephant, still preserved absolutely well. The scientists still believe there's so much of hidden viruses still being hidden in the North Pole and the South Pole. I mean, as the Antarctica is melting, you would see some deadly virus coming up. That's crazy. Similarly, the entire the frozen typical style of food scientists or food technology, I would say that the peak ripeness, preserving the vitamin and minerals by using frozen technology, is absolutely great and awesome to go ahead and consume it. This might be any vegetables. There are certain vegetables you cannot freeze rather. Similarly, anything can be frozen, whatever said and done. But for example, coconut cannot be frozen. It's not. Anyway, the shelf life. Shelf life is very crucial. See, today this is another thing, right? Just imagine the by the way, the refrigerator came after 1950. It came 1980s onwards. We see every household today has a refrigerator in India. Why do you do so? It's the place is to actually to stock your food, and you know that when it stock your food, your curries, your rasam, your sambar, your takal chutney, your chutneys, your idli dosa, whatever batter it's for the fermentations. It preserves the food, and then it enhances the longer shelf life. Similarly, in terms of any fresh food, shelf life is a crucial factor to consider. Fresh meat and vegetables have a limited shelf life, right? Obviously, look at tomato. If you put it in the normal basket, it would just rot immediately, and it spoils the whole basket. Be it fruits, be it any other, including meat. Meat, the night itself, it get fungus. You would see some worms coming out of. I mean, that's horrific to watch that. That's where I said, always please understand what you're eating in terms of going to grocery shops, or going to your butcher or your vendor. Man, it exchanges so much of hands, so much of delivery system, then the temperature, then the atmosphere, then it comes to your house, then you wash with your contaminated water or fresh water, whatever it is. It ends up in your hands. Then you have to use that oil, which doesn't allow you to wash more than 99%. So there are so much of various of factors when you have come to shelf life. It's crucial factor to consider, because you often require to understand the aspects of it. You'll see a lot of YouTube video how the food gets worn out for your McD burgers, your fresh meat, your vegetables. It just shelf life. So look at in terms of frozen. In frozen options can actually last much longer. It reduces major amount of food waste, and in turn it saves you money. Three things: it stays longer for a longer nutrition, and it composes nutrition, minerals, everything gets combustion, and then it reduces the major chunk of food waste because you're not wasting food. And similarly, in between of that, you also end up saving money. So that's a great, excuse me, that's a great point for shelf life. Convenience. Main point is that here is about, I don't know. I mean, this is, I don't know. This is for the Indians will never understand, because I'm getting to the segment of ready to eat, ready to cook. It's all about convenience food. So I would not say frozen. There are many food technologies, but frozen foods are pre-cut and pre-packaged meat preparations. No more spending hours of chopping vegetable. Just grab what you need and go and freeze. Now, to give you context today, there are canned foods and there is pre-cooked foods. There's always packaged, the so-called the processed food. The word processed is highly used in a wrong context here. Today, if you cut vegetables and you pack it, it's also called processed. Simple, right? If you go ahead and cut your meat and you pack it, it's also processed because it undergone certain methodology of slaughtering, removing skin, draining out, washing it, cutting in certain pieces, and then put it in a nice basket of box, packaging box. Put your film on it, your film, what do you call it, as a transparent film. You pack it, put your barcode, put your price tag, and then goes to the freezer in grocery shop, and then it comes out. So the entire thing is being processed. Similarly, to keep certain food aspect but not contaminated by certain viruses, certain bacteria, because understand it's a food. Food is prone to a lot of virus and bacteria. So convenience food helps you to achieve those products to enhance the flavors. They add a lot of additives and preservatives. Please understand, by not eating major processed food all the time will not get you bad health. There are so much of other reasons people actually look away from it. Okay, first thing is that you would know that you're eating a sugar-based food. So you look at Raven, the guy who spoke about the bone meter, went viral all over. If you just look at the few videos of him, you will know that bad marketing, the sugar all over, maida all over, 0.1% when they say they use the fresh fruits or so-called the herbs or the nuts. So just the point. The point here is that the processed food helps you to enhance the shelf life. It helps you to enhance the taste factor. No other chemical. Yes, it is on a larger scale. If it is used, it's very bad for your health, but it doesn't allow you, how much you eat, you maximum consume 450 grams per meal maximum, right? So 500, I would say, which also includes your water, your other dietary consumed in terms of meat, protein, vegetables, carbs, your rice, your dosas, idlis, whatever you do, eggs, whatever you do, right? So you need to consume only 500 grams. Less than 500 grams, if you're eating of processed food, you will not eat much more, right? You will just eat probably 100 grams of that, or 150, maximum of 250 grams. In that 250 grams is very clearly written what is the amount of usage of this preservatives. It's even negligible, to the matter of fact. If you don't believe it, go ahead, take a convenience food package, throw it on a lab, do a test, and come back to me and let me know if I'll prove it wrong. End of the day, it's also about costing. Today, why? Since the shelf life of the fresh product is always expensive, but tomatoes today, people didn't know that you can always go ahead and pick up a tomato puree. Is the same thing. Again, in the Indian context, unfortunately, people don't realize that chopping, cleaning, washing tomatoes, 200 rupees, still they require. They lived up without tomatoes to cooking, but people forgot a lot of other options of convenience of tomatoes purees. You can just pick it up, far more very cheap solutions. The concentration of tomato, greatest larger texture, enhance the flavor, delicious MSG in it. Man, okay. By the way, the MSG content, I would come back to you always better later sometime. But the cost factor, absolutely cheaper, budget friendly to use frozen products. Okay. Taste factor. People argue yes or no shelf life, but believe me, if you have any question on taste, first do the lab test, then taste, then come back to me and say which is better. I would always suggest you that if you use the right frozen packaging products, it is always enhances the flavor, because remember, when they package it, it's always right. They conserve the nutrients and the importance of their delicious taste factor. Then it's been frozen. Let's say any frozen technology, if you use IQF or a blast freeze, whatever said and done, or even if it's stored in the freezer for less than -9 or -19, when it comes out and you cook, the collagen, the protein, everything, the amalgamation of that entire gravy, color, whatever said and done, it comes in together and gives you the greatest flavor. So for me, frozen foods is always better. It's not that you froze and you just eat it. You have to warm it up. You have to use any kind of microwave or oven or a stove or a tawa. Put it and saute it thaw it as long as possible. For example, sausage, you have to thaw it, right? You have to go ahead and grill it or use barbecue over it. Then you put a sauce over it. Then you put it on the burger sandwich. Then consume it. Believe me, today Indians have to come away with saying terms of what is fresh, what is frozen, by simple technology to understand how taste enhances, specifically when you go ahead and froze it. Environmental impact. Not for the environmental conscious amongst us, consider this frozen food can sometimes have a lower carbon footprints. Very important, because they require fewer trips to the store, reducing transportation emissions. Right? Very true, right? Because today's shelf fresh, your vegetable fellow, it's always transporting your food every time, thinking that it's fresh, fresh, fresh. There's nothing called fresh. Look at the amount of time it's taken to get that fruit or a vegetable or a meat fresh, to get it to your plate. It's a huge food chain life cycle. So look at the frozen one time you order, you always stock tax up, because the amount of food wastage that you have, it reduces it. You just carry what is important to you and put it in a shelf. Over a period of time, as the Indian consume, I'm sure the pricing also will reduce, because the more the demand, the more the supply, the lesser the cost. Okay, accessibility, cooking methods, I wouldn't need to get onto it. Food safety is utmost paramount. Both fresh and frozen foods can be safe if handled properly, but frozen foods have advantage of extended storage without any risk of spoilage. We spoke about this. The ideal mix is always better to use fresh veggies along with the frozen meat. Go ahead and mix it. Nothing's going to happen. You don't want to die. You don't want to have any issues with it. It's just convenience. Faster the product, faster the cooking process, faster you eat on time, faster you live healthy, or longer you live healthy, right? So, in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that it is not about declaring who's a winner, which is the frozen or the fresh. Please understand where you would use it. Today, my only tip I would like to give you, if you're starting up a businesses, it's always better to go ahead and use ready to cook base gravies, which will have all of these things at a certain price points. And then you could go ahead and standardize, and you can use qualitative method of cooking by using frozen technologies and by using fresh veggies if it is required, if you're still considered about it. And you can go ahead and leverage your business model, because end of the day, it's all about costing. It's about saving money in your bank, not breaking enough of staff, because you don't need a cutting team or a washing team to do all of this. There are absolutely no food wastage, right? You're exactly utilizing what is required. You would know the amount of quantity, your menu engineering, your recipe management, everything is being covered when you go ahead and use frozen kind of fruits, vegetables, or a canned, or a convenience, or your meat as well. So everything is cut, trimmed, everything given you prep and prop. You just need to put it up, cook it, and then sell it. So just imagine the amount of wastage that you will not incur by using a shelf or a fresh product. Something to think about it. I'll appreciate it that you watch this point and come back to me. So before you go, remember, if you made it to this deep end, folks, my friends, my ladies and gentlemen, hit that like, follow, subscribe. You never, I mean, this is something which I'm kind of relate in terms of how food is worked out. Because since I'm doing my own content, I don't see any kind of engagement happening. It would take a while for YouTube because millions of videos get uploaded across the world. So if you're trying to make a subject, it's longer duration, it's longer marathon. So I would be keep doing this time and again. Please put in your questions as much as possible. Share this video. If you have any for questions, comment down below. I'll have happy to look at it and answer those questions whatever is required at Royal Bangalore Food. This is Paul. Thanks. Signing off. Take care. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Take care. Cheers. And